September 16th, 2021. The quiet streets of Old Swan, Liverpool, erupted into chaos. Merseyside police were in hot pursuit of a black Mercedes, driven by 42-year-old cocaine trafficker Peter Bradshaw. Moments earlier, he'd been caught under surveillance delivering 25 kilograms of Class A drugs to an industrial unit believed to be a gang safehouse. With sirens closing in, Bradshaw tore through traffic like a scene from a James Bond film, showing no regard for the lives of others. But his escape didn't last. Losing control on St. Oswald's Street, he smashed into a tree, bringing the high-speed chase and his freedom to a sudden end. Inside the wrecked Mercedes, officers made a startling discovery: over £5,000 in cash hidden beneath the passenger seat, along with a sheet of paper listing multiple properties tied to Bradshaw. His arrest was more than just the end of a car chase. It marked the unravelling of a nationwide, multi-million-pound drug smuggling network, run by ruthless criminals who once threatened to blow rivals' heads off with hand grenades. The walls of their empire had already begun to crack months earlier, when detectives infiltrated their encrypted EncroChat messages. In June 2020, under Operation Venetic, police gained a front-row seat to their darkest secrets, and the downfall of Bradshaw and his associates was set in motion. Peter Bradshaw, a lad from Old Swan, Liverpool, infamous for his vicious temper, the kind that could spark a riot. He was no stranger to law enforcement, with a criminal record stretching back to his school days when he first dabbled in cannabis dealing. But Bradshaw's ambitions went far beyond petty hustles. He wanted a seat at the table with Liverpool's most notorious figures, men who lived lavish lifestyles, worlds apart from the everyday grind of ordinary citizens. But by August 2011, Bradshaw's pursuit of that lifestyle caught up with him. He was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for his role in a £14 million cocaine smuggling conspiracy in Cumbria, a bust described by authorities as the largest in the county's history. By mid-2015, Bradshaw was released on licence, having served just half of his sentence. He claimed to have turned his life around, setting up a legitimate property development firm and distancing himself from his criminal past. But old habits die hard. In November 2018, Bradshaw once again made headlines. This time, his violent temper was his downfall. Inside a Liverpool city centre bar, an argument broke out. Though the court later determined Bradshaw hadn't started the confrontation, his response was brutal and unjustifiable. CCTV footage captured him raining down more than 8 blows to the victim's face and head, striking with such ferocity that the man was left unconscious on the floor. After the assault, Bradshaw strolled out of the bar, showing no sign of concern or remorse. In court, he insisted he had acted in self-defense, and luck was on his side. The judge accepted his story, and the charges were dropped. Once again, Peter Bradshaw walked free. It was early 2020. The world had ground to a halt under the weight of the COVID-19 pandemic. Families stayed indoors, clinging to loved ones through uncertain times. But for Peter Bradshaw and his lieutenants, the crisis presented opportunity. At the centre of the operation was 37-year-old Graham Minards from Norris Green's Canella Avenue. Authorities described him as a leading figure in the group, a man operating in the upper echelons of Liverpool's organised crime. Minards oversaw the importation of vast quantities of cocaine and heroin into the UK, using an international web of contacts stretching from Colombia to Brazil and even Dubai. Once the shipments arrived, Bradshaw stepped in. He collected the consignments at the city's deep-sea terminal, flanked by a convoy of transit vans disguised as tradesmen collecting tools for a fake construction company set up by Minards. The drugs were then concealed across multiple sites, including Bradshaw's own development properties scattered around Old Swan. The group also relied on a third conspirator, 29-year-old Michael Aboo from Musker Drive, Netherton. Initially, Bradshaw brought him in as a courier, tasked with moving drugs to different parts of the UK, but Aboo refused to travel north of the border, wary of Scotland after a previous arrest and conviction for drug offences there. Instead, he arranged for others to handle courier runs on his behalf, while gradually branching out into brokering his own deals. Together, the trio formed a tightly run operation, communicating exclusively through EncroChat. Bradshaw used the handle Stocky Giant, Minards went by Calm T, and Aboo was known as Witty Hound. Inside the encrypted chat logs, the The conversations laid bare the scale of their trafficking network. They discussed moving 50 kilograms of cocaine from London to Glasgow. Minards instructed Bradshaw to collect 5 kilograms from a stash in Kirkby and urged him to pick 30 bits up early from Essex, a coded reference to 30 kilograms of cocaine. There were also plans to ship 20 kilograms to Newcastle. Other exchanges detailed the movement of 45 kilograms to High Wycombe using so-called jockeys, alongside established supply lines stretching to Cardiff, Milton Keynes, Leeds, and Bradford. Through EncroChat, the group forged alliances with other dealers, expanding their reach and pushing their operation onto a much larger scale. One exchange showed an unidentified user, known only as Saggy Sloth, asking Minards if he could arrange the transport of a 2-bar from Brum. In underworld slang, it meant moving £2 million in cash from Birmingham to London. Minards replied confidently, suggesting a payout of £10,000 per million, and with Saggy Sloth promising up to £6 million a month to ship, the profits on offer were staggering. But while Minards thrived, his partner Bradshaw was falling into dangerous territory. He had racked up heavy debts to suppliers, leaving him under serious threat from another EncroChat user, who went by the name Fierce Crow. Desperate to settle his arrears, Bradshaw even spoke of remortgaging flats and development properties, scrambling for funds to buy himself more time. Bradshaw had grown weary of living under constant threat. On June 12, 2020, he messaged Minards about taking action against Fierce Crow. One text read, "Mate, me and Tony have got a gym bag full of them. I've got pineapples and everything I bought years ago." Another added, "It's not about that. He has crossed the line saying kids, and that lad, in criminal slang, pineapples, referred to hand grenades." Minards responded coldly, "Lad, I've got kids here by my mum's who blow any cunt's head off, never mind legs. F him." Put simply, Minards commanded a pair of ruthless youngsters, ready to unleash serious violence on anyone at a moment's notice. But the following month, July 2020, Europol announced the dismantling of EncroChat, a secret, encrypted messaging platform used by criminals across Europe. The breakthrough gave authorities unprecedented access to conversations that would unravel entire criminal networks. In the UK alone, the operation led to over 2,600 arrests, 1,384 of them directly linked to drug trafficking. When news of EncroChat's dismantling broke, the trio scrambled for cover, erasing thousands of incriminating messages that tied them to the drug trade. But the damage was already done. Investigators had already recovered a damning catalogue of evidence. Minards was linked to agreements to supply 1,235 kilograms of cocaine, 89 kilograms of heroin, 88.5 kilograms of cannabis, and 195 litres of amphetamine oil. Bradshaw's chats revealed his role in trafficking 1,067 kilograms of cocaine, 175 kilograms of heroin, 380.5 kilograms of cannabis, and 374 litres of amphetamine oil. Meanwhile, Aboo was exposed for arranging the sale of 467 kilograms of cocaine, 3 kilograms of heroin, and 60 kilograms of cannabis, as well as moving criminal funds totaling more than £764,000. All of it uncovered in just 4 months. With overwhelming evidence in hand, authorities now had one final task: track down each member of the network and bring them into custody. The first arrest came on September 16, 2021, when Peter Bradshaw was captured in Old Swan. The following summer, in June 2022, Michael Aboo was taken from his home in Netherton. Finally, in January 2023, police closed in on the man prosecutors would later describe as the brain of the group. He was intercepted while driving a Ford Transit van through Norris Green. Inside, officers found high-end watches and a lock knife. A raid on his home uncovered tens of thousands of pounds worth of designer clothing and luxury goods. Unable to prove in court that any of it had been purchased legitimately, his assets, including his house, were seized and sold at auction. With all 3 men now in custody, the stage was set for the courtroom reckoning that would seal their fate. April 2023, Liverpool Crown Court. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation. The public gallery was crowded with journalists, relatives, and onlookers, each waiting to see how justice would fall on 3 of Liverpool's most notorious criminals. At the front, The defendants sat behind the glass dock, flanked by security officers. Once brash and untouchable, they now looked subdued, their confidence stripped away. Before the jury, the evidence was overwhelming. Chat logs, financial records, photographs, and seized items that exposed the true scale of their empire. On the prosecution bench, counsel delivered a meticulous case. Shipments of cocaine worth millions, encrypted conversations plotting supply lines, and chilling threats of violence that even referenced hand grenades. Across the room, defense lawyers tried to counter, arguing fragments of doubt, but the weight of evidence was suffocating. Each detail revealed in court made it clear this was no ordinary drug case. It was the dismantling of a network that had operated with arrogance, greed, and a readiness for brutality. After 8 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with its final verdict. All 3 men were found guilty: conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and conspiracy to launder money. Michael Aboo was sentenced to 15 years behind bars for his role in the operation. Graham Minards, described as the architect of the network, received 21 years, and Peter Bradshaw, the hot-headed lieutenant whose ambition had fueled the empire, was handed 19 years in prison. Their empire, once fueled by greed, violence, and the illusion of untouchable power, had finally collapsed. For Bradshaw, Minards, and Aboo, the streets of Liverpool were replaced with the cold reality of prison walls, where they will spend the best years of their lives paying the price for their crimes.